Mic check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and the average age for a gamer in the United States is 35 years old. At least that's what it was a couple of years ago, and that's based on some statistics that came from Wikipedia, which you could take with a grain of salt. But even if that number is off, give or take by a few years, that is still a pretty old age for games, for something like video games. Now, we understand that video games is not something that's just meant for children. Clearly, there are games that there have always been games that have been for mature audiences, even if they were on cutesy looking cartridges like the Super Nintendo. In fact, there have been games that have been coming out even from the NES and Super NES days that were a little bit more mature. When you think about games like Splatterhouse or games that had very violent content, right? Usually those were the criteria that made games mature. But these days, a lot of the games that we see as being more mature are because they have more than just cursing, more than just violence. Usually there's some type of uh, maybe the main character has some revealing clothing, right? Maybe there's some suggestive themes, some suggestive comments, maybe there's some nudity. And we're seeing where now in 2025 that I feel like the demographic for gaming is somewhat getting older and older and older, because let's face it, the majority of people in America, right? The age group that should be having kids, they're having less kids than ever before, right? If you think about the demographic, and not just here, but globally, there are less people having children today than as compared to maybe the 80s. And we could delve into all the reasons for that, right? There's less relationships today. There's a bad economy. The economy isn't as strong as it once was. And, people are more apprehensive about having babies, creating families when they don't feel financially secure enough to take care of themselves. And anyone who's in the 18 to 26, 27 age range that might be watching this video, if you find yourself in that position, you might be saying, well, Y2K, dude, I can't even get on my own feet. I can't even find a job that will pay me enough to get stable living on my own or anything like that, let alone have kids. But this is really important because children were always a big factor, a big part of the gaming community, especially when you think about things like Christmas and birthdays and things like that. You're usually buying video games for the kids. But what happens when society reaches a point where we're not having kids as much as we used to? Well, it would make sense for gaming companies to then transition their marketing to a different age range, to a different age group. And the largest demographic of gamers, believe it or not, range between the ages of 18 and 34. And I believe that. I do believe that. When you start looking at other societal statistics, right? The fact that we are seeing some of the lowest participations in the workforce in decades. And there also could be a whole host of reasons for that, right? Not enough jobs, not enough good paying jobs, right? People don't want to go and work and spend 8 10 hours at a job that's only going to pay them $15 $20 an hour. And so what would they rather do? They would rather do other things. People are opting to work less and enjoy life more, and that goes back into not having kids. There's a large demographic of millennials and Gen Zers who say, I want to enjoy life. I don't want to have children. And even older, even Gen Xers. There are a ton of Gen Xers out there who are like, you know what? I'd rather just be me, my dog, and my video games, and they're good to go. And so when you start thinking about this, it's definitely going to have an impact on the types of games that are created, how games are marketed, and more of what types of games are we going to see more of. I think everybody was so thrilled to see Astro Bot, and I haven't played Astro Bot yet, so no one spoil it for me. But and I finally do have a PlayStation 5, so I do plan on getting it. But I think the big part of the reason why everyone was so enamored with Astro Bot was because it took everyone back to this wholesome nostalgic place, where, of the last generation, possibly the sixth generation, where games were created, these open world 3D platforming adventure games that didn't have any suggestive comments, that were not graphic, that were not violent, but were just very fun games that was fun for the entire family. And I think that captured the hearts of people of all ages and of all demographics. And I think that's the big part of the reason why Astro Bot was super successful, because we saw something that everyone could play, everyone could enjoy, and there were no bells and whistles, there were no hidden messages, no, there wasn't anything else other than a really fun gaming experience. And so, that's, I don't know, is that going to be the start of the revival of a genre that we haven't really seen in a while? Because to me, it seems like a lot of what we're seeing are these games that are based on, when you think about like Half-Life and, Uncharted and Among Us, and, you think about these games that put you in these very real life situations, these very real life survival horror, stealth, tactical espionage, kind of games that follow these very serious stories, these very adult like stories. And I feel like that's what's dominated a lot of what we see in games. I mean, it's either that or first person shooter games, multiplayer first person shooter games, which, has gone from Halo to Gears of War to, Call of Duty to Fortnite, then back to Call of Duty. And then, we're going to see what goes from there. But I don't see it going, I don't see gaming going in the direction of young people anymore. I think gaming is going to continue rather to cater mostly to the adult demographic. I mean, look at what everyone has a lot of their excitement around, and it's around this new Grand Theft Auto game, GTA 6. And I'm willing to bet money that GTA 6 is going to be rated M for mature. And it's going to be rated M for mature because it's going to have a lot of mature content. Everything from language to suggestive themes to suggestive comments rather, to nudity, to, everything you can think of is 9 times out of 10 going to be included in GTA 6. And I remember back in GTA 3 when you could pick up, one of the hookers in the street and bring them in your car, and all you really saw was the car bouncing around. Get ready for developers to show you a little bit more than a car bouncing around. And this is the way it's going to go, because there are going to be more mature audiences absorbing this content. Believe me, they're not making GTA 6 for your 7-year-old nephew. I can guarantee you that. It is going to be a mature game. It's going to be a game that's meant for adults. And this is going to be another one of those ways that people who really don't do a lot in the real world, if they don't, if you don't have a lot of friends, if you don't have a big social life, if you don't really get out much, whether it be because you're constantly working, you're constantly bombarded with just the pressures of life, and you can't really get an opportunity to go out and hang out and do stuff, there are going to be a lot of people vicariously living through GTA 6. I guarantee you that. If they're anticipating the game to gross $3 billion, they have to be putting things in there that are going to make it very appealing and very addictive to adult audiences. And I'm really interested to see where this is going to go. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think that the future of gaming looks more like it's going to go in the direction of Astro Bot type games, these very fun, family-friendly games? Or do you think we're going to continue to go down this path of these mature rated games with suggestive themes that dominate the popularity charts in gaming? Let me know what you think below, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.